be having. You are also very, very right on the fact that I think what we need to make clear on this show is that, look, wherever you are, don't think you're fighting an older generation. What is actually happening in Nigeria is that there are paid youths that are fighting a youth that want a country. That's the real war. Any other war, forget it. And the truth is, when you look at it, the federal government probably wasn't even thinking of banning Twitter. Like, they're happy you guys on Twitter. We know it's Twitter. Because they don't know it's Twitter. So we know it's Twitter. Okay, ban this thing. No, good idea. They'll now ban it. Then the whole thing goes on and off. As regards your point about we don't all have to be in political parties, I said that earlier. I said we don't all have to, but we need quite an amount. If you look at Nigeria, being honest, Nigeria has some of the most educated, versatile, upwardly mobile people in the world. I've been to places within the country and outside that people have questioned me being Nigerian. And this is within governance circles because they've met Nigerians in governance. So they cannot believe, come on, are you sure you're Nigerian? Why can't you win an election in your country? How? How is it happening? And the reason it's happening, like I said, the delegates within that political party system are responsible for who emerges from the political parties. As long as it is this present crop, we are in trouble. And it's not going to get any
because
better.
they will continue to present options
Because
of the devil and the deep blue sea for you.
Yes, and they will keep recycling the same thing. Nigeria has actually been ruled by, apart from a few that have gone out of the system, but we've actually been controlled by a few who have been there since '66. The only person that was an anomaly was President Goodluck Jonathan.
True.
And President Goodluck Jonathan, well, we know how that went. And what amazes me, I'm not a PDP or APC. Actually, my office right now with the Electoral College, I'm non-partisan. So I don't know how in 2015 you voted out the president for issues, and in 2019 the president with more issues than who you voted out in 20 survived. But now it comes to the critics, what exactly is going on? And then you start to ask yourself a question. As long as the average middle class stays away from politics, because the truth is, if you really want to know who took out Trump in the US, it was middle class participation in politics.
Who took out Jonathan was middle class.
Middle class,
yes.
too. As long as the middle class stays away, and it's because the middle class can tell the left from the right, not middle class that today on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, we need a better Nigeria, we need a better Nigeria. Then you see one of the usual suspects, I can't name any politician, usual suspects, and then you're at his party. And then you take a selfie with him. The same people that last week were saying they were corrupt politicians will now say, Elsie, you've moved up in life. Is that not what you're doing?
No, but which is what I'm saying, this young people that we have in politics, because you've made a difference now. You differentiated it. You said there's youth participation in politics and there's youth participation in political offices. Now, those number of youths we have in the political parties already, how is there some sort of training? Is there something that can be said to them that would make them understand their role and that this country is the only one we have?
That's what the Electoral College and I think people like Electa and Fixed Politics are trying to do. We Electoral College are a pioneer institution in this educational regard, and this is our target, trying to teach them what exactly should be. Or let's also say something. A Nigerian who has been trained by let me not use by a wolf. You can't. It won't see chickens and not want to jump at it. So what we've tried to do is build another set of Nigerians and then mold their thought process and then put them in the game. That's the only way you can change it, because the truth is, show me your
So when you are talking about this now, so that's very tricky, because what some have argued in some quarters is that even for us, we're a lost cause, right? The people you are talking about molding right now are the people that are like maybe from age 5 to like age 13. that they are not, I mean, that's the age grade of the young people that are still moldable, and these are the people that they are looking forward to being the change for the country. Because for us, we are lost causes. We're not going to change anything. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I agree, but we are the foundation for the change.
Okay.
So the Electoral College, of course, works with, we even help conduct elections, debates, promote primaries, the whole electoral system in schools across Nigeria. We have pilot schools that we've attempted all this. We of course have a handbook that's coming out soon, which will be the whole thing with pictures targeted at from age 12 to age 21.
Yeah.
We just try to make politics to,
sound interesting.
Yeah, we'll give it a little sexy back thing. So we're trying to get to that point. Yes, you're right. We will be able to save Nigeria with that. That generation will save Nigeria, but the foundation will be laid by us. And we have to, which is what we're doing, transmitting information backward.
Okay.
And
So, sorry, Isi, let me just throw in just one last thing when you say foundation. So for us now, I mean, when you go abroad, every young child from age 5, 6, they know about the history of their country. They know a lot that is going on in politics and everything. Governance, they teach them from
a younger age.
From a very young age. So what are we doing in that? Is the Electoral College also pushing for those kinds of advocacy and inclusion from that age? Or just organizing programs? Or now we want to imbibe it into the curriculum? Because there are some children, you wake them, they know the history of their country, right? It's part of even, like, I mean, my sister, when she was applying for citizenship in France, she had to know the history of from the monarchy and everything. It's part of what makes you a citizen. So are we pushing for that?
Okay, no offense to the Ministry of Education, but the Electoral College tried to at least improve the curriculum of civic education in Nigeria, and it's going to take us like 6 or 7 years. So while we're working on that, and how long NUC and its other cohorts decide to make a move, we have decided, okay, we're going to come up with little, like you used to have I took it when I was growing up. There was Jets Club, there was Press Club. Yeah. So now we're creating something known as the Electoral College Club, which we're going to put in place within schools. It's going to take us time because, of course, we are not carrying money, or we don't have backing of
the federal.
Let's not call their name. So, because we don't have their backing, we of course have to function in, as we can in pet projects. Yeah, but in pet plans, like which will have something in Nasarawa, we'll have something we'll try in Calabar, we'll have something we'll try in Benue, Boko, somewhere, Edo, somewhere.
Yeah, Isi, quickly, we have like 3 minutes.
Okay, I was going to talk about the fact that, do you think that there is hope that we can actually change this, and the youth of Nigeria can understand that they have the power to change this? You've already talked about that before now, that it's important that we know this. So my take is, due to the peculiarities of Nigerian politics, can we work towards changing the dynamics of the politics in Nigeria from today with a, how do I put it? So I'm looking for the right word for it.
For me, I like to keep such answers very simple. Most people say, okay, he's run for Senate, he heads the Electoral College in Nigeria, 49 bills proposed while running for office, higher than any Nigerian legislator in history. How did I achieve that? I love my country. I'm happy I knew Elsie then. Elsie knew me. I had nothing to do with politics. Yeah. I just got tired of, the status quo, and I took the bull by the horns. The truth is, everything you know about politics is a lie. Most of it is a cutting just to keep people away. So you know the trick. They only hold meetings at 2 o'clock. I've been the National Publicity Secretary, highest level, National Executive Council of a political party. Nobody was holding meetings at 2 o'clock. Hello. And we also, we've worked on quite a lot of things, and a lot of things don't happen like that. I ran for Senate in the FCT. I didn't conduct any 2 o'clock meeting within my, what am I doing at 2 o'clock?
Is it possible that's why you did not win?
No, I don't think so. I think I didn't win because the FCT I still don't believe I lost an election.
Okay.
And this is not because of the numbers. I just believe Abuja lost a senator. And that's the way I look at it. Because I don't know how you would actually do the job of a senator, which is propose 49 bills while running for office, and not get the office. Then it means the people don't even know what senators are supposed to do. I find it funny when I hear people saying, our senator did not give us road, or that popular actor that they've been bashing for a bridge. That's not actually his job. It's the job of local government chairman. Constituency projects do not exist in our constitution and are not. It's an anomaly within the functions of the National Assembly.
I like the mindset of you saying that they lost a
senator.
senator. And I think if most of the people who run for office have that kind of mindset, then I don't think anybody will be killing anyone or bloodshed or
I was going to say, it's not a do or die
to get
thing.
into office because you're going to serve. And if you say, don't serve me, I carry my
I think
load.
it would be nice to have you back to help us break down the role of local government, because we need to do like a series of breaking down. Yeah, because you see, you kept on going back to local government, going back to say a lot of us don't actually know the functions of those at each cadre. We do not know the functions.
Yeah.
So everything we just say, it's this.
Let me
this.
give you an example that will blow your mind. So it's smart, yeah. The answer situation in Lekki, everybody, but you guys didn't talk to who was actually responsible for that. I believe that bridge is in Etiosa, right?
Yes.
It's under the jurisdiction of the chairman of Etiosa. That's who you're supposed to be holding, not the governor. So whenever you hold the governor, it's funny. I just decided to bring that out.
You can imagine.
Okay.
So we are just holding the wrong person. If we had sued that guy to court.
But they enjoy it. Because
They enjoy the attention.
know you don't know. It's like the LG elections. The incumbent knew people will not run, or other parties will not run. And you know what the scare was? Don't worry, the incumbent will win. And that's how the incumbent won. It's not because they actually did anything mechanical.
Fantastic,
They didn't do anything. They just wrote off your fears. And that's what
And our
politics
ignorance.
is. Yeah, they do that. And that's all they do.
Wow. I love the way you're demystifying politics. So
Yeah.
for any young person, I hope you learned a lot as we learned today. So we are going to be the foundation for that change. That's our generation. That's our job, is to lay the right foundation for the change. Thank you so much, Kunle. We've had an amazing chat with you. Thank you, Isia Fodler and Elsie Godwin.
Thank
All right,
you.
so sorry we couldn't take messages today. We had a technical issue. So before we go, do ensure you follow us on Instagram at PlusTvAfrica. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and most importantly, we're planning a giveaway to say thank you to you for believing in the Ways brand and following the conversation. So do what to follow us now is at PlusTvAfrica. Like, share, invite your friends, and make sure you comment also. Share with your friends and family to also watch and follow the conversation. So if you missed today's quote, here it is again. The duty of the youth is to challenge corruption. We are going to set a foundation for a corruption-free Nigeria. How about that?
Buhari is fighting corruption.
You'll be all right. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.
Welcome to The Breakfast.
A breakfast where we unbundle top and big stories of the day.
Is vaccine the only way out of this pandemic?
No, definitely not.
Many Ghanaians just want a peaceful election and they are hoping there will be no rigging.
There is nothing bad in borrowing for infrastructure. The minister added that he was impressed.
Please come and see yourself what we are doing with the money we are borrowing.
It's very important. The way we brand ourselves is the way people will carry us.
It's just the driver of the two vehicles that were completely bought.
This one was here screaming.
What do you recommend the government do to support this sector?
Direct intervention, that's what every government all over the world has done.
We are not a parallel security structure. Amotepu Corps is a complementary corps.
What I will not encourage Christians to do is to carry dagger and follow anybody. No.
Join us on The Breakfast, 7 a.m., Monday to Friday.
Nigerian government begins for prisoners who escaped from facility in Kogi State. Interior Minister Rauf Arigdeshola discloses Interpol has been placed on alert.
Suspected cholera cases now nearly 70,000, with more than 2,300 deaths recorded.
And a Nigerian former mobile police officer denied asylum in Canada, not because of what he's accused of doing, but because he was a member of the Nigerian police force. Canadian court insists he associated with a force known for overwhelming human rights abuse. Welcome to The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. I am Anetta Felix.
And I am Osaogie Ogmon. Good morning. Thanks for joining us here on Plus TV Africa.
How are you doing today, Osaogie?
Fantastic.
Cold?
Yes, really cold. Hoping for some sunlight today because yesterday was really I wouldn't say rainy all through, but it wasn't the type of Monday anyone expected. Yesterday felt like a Thursday evening, all through. So. All
right. Our first top trending story this morning just goes to show that. You know how they say a victory for one is a victory for all, or there's a way they put that saying, talking about how, when one person achieves something, it's, it affects the larger group. And in this particular case, we've seen how something that is concerned with a Nigerian institution is now going ahead to affect people who were former members of that institution. And it just demonstrates how we need to sit up as a country, fix our institutions, put better structures in place so that it doesn't deny other people the opportunities to progress in life. And here's exactly what I'm talking about. A former Mopol officer, his name is Charles Okoniwe, his relocation hopes has basically been dashed. And a judge in Canada ruled that they cannot grant him asylum because he was a member of the Nigerian police force and that it's a force that was associated, that is associated with human rights abuses and, you know, just other crimes. So this Federal High Court in Ottawa, Canada, the judge, Patrick Gleeson, held that any Nigerian who willingly associates and joins the Nigerian police force will be guilty by association before the Canadian judicial system and by the United Nations conventions relating to the status of refugees, withstanding, you know, whether, you know, this person committed gruesome offenses or not. Just because you are associated with an organization that has been seen to commit human rights offenses, I mean, basically you're guilty in that regard. This takes us back to 2013. In 2013, a Supreme Court in Canada ruled that anyone who participates willingly in any, you know, organization or regime linked to crimes would not receive protection from the Canadian government, you know, because he had gone ahead to seek asylum. He was denied, and he went ahead to take this to court to say, why was I denied asylum? So they had to put that before him, that it's because of your association with the Nigerian police force, not necessarily because you were indicted for committing certain crimes or because you were a member of the force. And Judge Gleeson here said that it is, he chooses to believe or not to believe that Mr. Ekoniwe had no idea, no knowledge that the Nigerian police force was corrupt. You know, we've had reports from the Nigerian Open Society saying that the Nigerian police force had wrought untold destruction on Nigerians and that the Nigerian police force had effectively become criminal. So that really is a story right here. Mr. Ekoniwe had actually left Nigeria for the United States, and that was in March 5th, 2018, and then he arrived in Canada June 6, 2018, and subsequently filed a claim for refugee protection, but that has been denied. So I really wonder what's going to happen. Would he be deported back to the country? What really are the next steps to follow? We really are not clear about that. But the point is here that the fact that the Nigerian police force has been found to be corrupt, has been found to just carry out human rights abuses, it's now affecting the chances of other people in the force who attempt to relocate. And this is not the first case. We also saw a case that happened some time ago. It was in April. A Canadian judge also ruled that one Olushola Popola, he was a former member of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, ruled that he would not get asylum on the grounds that he was associating, and he had associated with the Nigerian police force. So membership of the force really have cost them any hopes and dreams to quote-unquote jackpot.
Yeah, well, I think you've basically detailed everything. He was seeking asylum on the grounds that he was being threatened by
a cult group in 2016.
Yeah, right. So I read the story, and I couldn't even feel sorry for him or for the other person that you mentioned. Yeah, the Popola person. I didn't feel sorry for them. In my head, I was really just thinking, where were you running to, Oga? Come back here and stew in the mess that you've created and you've been a part of and you've enabled,
aided and abated.
And I would totally agree with the Canadian judge that. And if you read
the court documents?
The court documents, it sounded like it wasn't even a case that they were even going to consider. They really looked at it and said, please don't even waste your time or don't bother, us, don't stress us this afternoon with this nonsense. Go back there, go back to Nigeria. We're not granting you asylum. And it, once again, was clearly stated guilty by association. And you cannot in any way say that you were part of the Nigerian police force and you somehow, some way did it. Even if people argue that they are good cops here and there, it doesn't matter. The perception of the Nigerian police force here in Nigeria, prior to the NSAS protest and after the NSAS protest, has been the same. It's not changed in any way. It has been seen as a criminal gang. It's almost like a cult. So I'm not sure which cult you are running from. It almost feels like it is a cult group that continues to, in quote, terrorize the Nigerian people. And it still happens to date. After the NSAS protest, you still see it. If you look at down Admiralty Road here in Phase 1, just before you turn into Freedom Way, they are there from Thursday to, Saturday, Sunday. They're there. They're not looking for criminals on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday. But from Thursday, when they know that there's going to be people going out, to nightclubs or, having, late night activities, even if Lagosians really should, I don't know, I'm not sure why they're still going to clubs in a pandemic. But, the police are there, and they're looking for reasons to pin on you. And I said this before, that Nigerian police arrest you and then starts to look for the reason that they arrested you.
Or even set you up.
Yeah.
I've had conversations with lots of Uber drivers, and they tell you that, you know, there was nothing in their car. They do the due diligence and check their car.
There's
and
many,
then they
many
plant
stories.
weed
yes.
and things like that. So
there's many stories like that. So I'm not sure where he thought he was running to after being a part of the mess. And yes, he was good cop, bad cop, whatever it is. And it says here that anybody who willingly joins the Nigerian police force.
You're not conscripted into the Nigerian police force. You apply for these things.
So anybody who willingly joins the Nigerian police force, seeing what it really functions as, then you really are guilty. And you cannot say that all the while that you were there, he was a cop, he was a police officer for many years, more than a decade, I believe. There's no way that you weren't a part of that system, or you didn't participate in that, you know, in that mess, or you didn't enjoy the benefits of, you know, the in quote, once again, criminal gang that the Nigerian police force is. So, good luck. You should come back to Nigeria and enjoy with the rest of us. Maybe go back to the force if you're still given a job.
So safe to say, if you're a member of the Nigerian police force, you're not going to Canada or the United States. You will be here, and we're eyeing this together. Let's stay in our country and fix things.
Same thing with being a bandit and saying that, oh, you know, they forced you into it. Okay? And once again, the Nigerian government needs to take a stance against whoever it is, a bandit or a terrorist, or you on gun-known men, whatever it is, that the reason that you joined it or you were part of that group, there's nothing like, you know, you weren't guilty.
And talking about gun-known men, leading us to our second top trending story. Now, gunmen suspected to be members of the indigenous people of Biafra have disrupted examination activities in a secondary school in Imo State. Now, students of the school were scheduled to sit for their paper, English, the objective and essay, yesterday on Monday. But what we saw was that despite talks about the Ghost Monday sit-at-home order being suspended, you know, gunmen went to that school, they shot in the air to chase people away. They gathered motorcycles belonging to students and teachers and set them on fire. I mean, in a video that has now gone viral, we hear the voice of someone, we don't know if, you know, their identity is a student or a teacher or passerby. Someone speaking in Igbo saying, we're live here at the Comprehensive Secondary School, Ukume, in Ngaba, local government area of Imo State, and that the gunmen, you know, had shot into the air. Students have fled the examination halls. People are scared. People are running away for their lives. You can take a look at that examination hall. No one is to be found, and you can definitely understand why. No one will want to sit back and face a threat to their lives. They would rather abandon that examination and say, we can sit for it some other time. We can sit for it next year. And that's really what, you know, some of the things that the Nigerian society does to you causes delays in academic progress. We know, first of all, that so many schools in the Southeast have complained that because of the IPOB sit-at-home orders, the Ghost Mondays, it have disrupted academic activities, and people have been unable to resume school as usual, because we know now that so many state governments have gone ahead to say that school is resuming 13th of September, but most schools in the Southeast have been unable to do that. And now, I think what's worse is that these separatist group, the IPOB, have announced that on Tuesday, there's going to be another sit-at-home order, and that's to mark, to remember the victims of the military attack on Kanu's residence in 2017. So the question really is, which way in Nigeria?
Well, it's not just Tuesday. They have a 3-day sit-at-home this week. They have, they've done Monday. They've announced another one for today, Tuesday, to mark the, you know, lives of Biafrans lost. And also on Friday, which is meant to be Nnamdi Kanu's trial. So it's 3 days this week that they have ordered a sit-at-home. You know, and I've been saying that at some point, you know, there will be a breaking point, you know, and the people of the Southeast will have to decide whether they're going to continue to sit at home or they're going to, you know, come out and say, you know, we're done with this mess. Because the IPOB has failed to realize, or I think they realize, but they're just enjoying the attention that they get or the power that they have. It has zero effect on whatever their cause is. It has zero effect on Nnamdi Kanu's trial, zero effect on President Muhammadu Buhari, who was there last week and they couldn't do anything. And I saw a video someone made, you know, basically laughing at them and saying, the person that you are basically run all this campaign against was in Imo State. You couldn't do anything. You hid in your homes and you were online talking, you know, all the nonsense you could talk. But you couldn't come out on the day that the president came to Imo State. But instead, it is the poor Okada riders and the poor market women who are trying to make a living selling okpa or whatever it is that they can sell to put food on their table. Those are the people that you're attacking. And it really just also reminds you of how power intoxicates in Nigeria. The tiniest, the smallest security guard that is given a uniform automatically, becomes more powerful. It's looking for the next Okada rider or Keke rider to harass or to oppress. That's really the thing with power in Nigeria. I don't know about the rest of Africa. So, that's exactly what they're enjoying, But once again, it's important to also ask the questions because it leads us into our next trending topic where the governor of Anambra State, Willie Obiano, is leading a campaign to get people back to work on Mondays and ignore the sit-at-home order. But it's important to know how relevant Willie Obiano's campaign will be. And, if the rest of the whole, Southeastern governors. Because the reason that these sit-at-home orders have become successful is because there has been a campaign, a propaganda run by the IPOB for all these years that has been very, very successful. And the reason it has been successful, it is because a lot of people can actually see that it is true, that Southeast leadership has failed them. All these Southeast governors, all the traditional leaders, the sociocultural groups, Ohanes and Ndibo and the likes, all the factions have all failed them. They have failed to speak on behalf of the people of the Southeast. And that's why whenever, years ago when Radio Biafra came up, and a lot of people criticized it, but there were people even in between the criticism still would say, well, but he's speaking facts. Regardless of, how he's doing it. And you hear a lot of people say, oh, yeah, we may not like Nnamdi Kanu, but he actually is saying the truth. And, that's the propaganda that has worked. And being able to disable whatever imagination of power or leadership that the Southeast governors have had or thought that they had. And so Obiano, Umahi, governor of Enugu State, Ugwuanyi, all of them you put together, including the Imo State governor, Hope Uzodinma, and Abia State governor, they have shown that they really don't have the ears of the people. And if they say everybody should come out on Mondays, no one really has any interest in listening to them because they know that they cannot protect them somehow, some way. And that's really what is playing out. So Governor Obiano we've basically moved into our third topic. Governor Obiano has made his own statements. I don't know how many people will answer him or would, take his, cause serious. He has, and same thing with the rest of the Southeast governors, lost that faith that the people should have in him. And so good luck to his campaign. But once again, the Southeasterners need to, by themselves, make up their minds on how much longer they're going to continue to sit at home. And who gives any group the authority to declare sit at home for 3 days in a week? So you can only come out on Wednesday and on Thursday in a whole week, which is really, really sickening. All
right. So the pictures you're seeing on your screen are of the governor of Anambra State, Willie Obiano, at the Eke-Akwa market, speaking to market women, market men, and people, who are in leadership positions in those markets. You also see pictures of him in the banking halls of some banks. Is this what you will do every Monday? Should every governor now come out every Monday? So the point is that you need structures in place to make this work, that will work regardless of whichever personality, whichever governor is there. So that really is what we need, that structure to make things work regardless of the governor. Structure.
They just need to trust you. They need to have faith in what you're saying. They need to believe that, you really have their interests at heart and you have their backs 100%. There would be structure, and the structure you might be referring to is security infrastructure. So that is a part of the things. But most importantly, they need to understand, or they need to believe you as a governor, that you are speaking on their behalf and you would protect them if they decide to come out. And I've said it before, that do we have enough security architecture in the whole Southeast to protect people in every little corner of the Southeast if the IPOB or the ESN decides to go on rampage and destroy people's properties? And no, we don't, regardless of how we want to paint it. No, we don't. The NSCDC basically doesn't show up except it's time to arrest tanker drivers in a bush somewhere. The police, are not plenty enough. We already know that. The army shouldn't be in the streets for any reason. So there's many of these concerns. How much trust do the people have? I really think it's no longer left to the political leadership or traditional leadership. It's really left to the people now to tell themselves that we're done with sitting at home and we will come out on Monday. Okay. And yes, the IPOB eventually would give up or they will rest, because obviously this has zero effect on anything aside just oppressing their own people.
Yes, that's it on Top Trending this morning. Thank you very much for starting our beautiful Tuesday with us. We'll take a break and see the stories that are making the headlines on our national dailies.
Welcome once again to The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Now let's go to the newspapers this morning and see what major stories we can share with you. We already have our guest who will be introduced in a bit. We're starting with the Punch newspapers. Would be on your screen in just a few seconds. And of course, you get to see the big ones. Yes, it says there, military onslaught in Zamfara. Dislodged bandits flee southwards. Gunmen strike in Kogi, Kaduna, Ekiti. It says we've got intelligence reports that bandits were coming to Ondo Forest. Motekun Corps commander says. Also, terrorists invade Kogi prison, free 240 prisoners, kill 2 soldiers, and gunmen abduct 4 Ekiti travelers. Also on the Punch, 4 dead, 166 houses destroyed in Abuja estate flood. Indigenous nationalities demand referendum as UN protest starts today. APC state congresses hold October 2nd. Also this morning, EFCC raids Ogun Government Hotel and others harboring fraudsters, arrest 56. Federal government warns against fake vaccine card sale, justifies compulsory vaccination. Still on the Punch, VAT judgment, FIRS may lose 92 billion naira revenue to states. And another strike looms, ASU warns. NARD wants Buhari to lead talks. Falana heads legal team. Finally, non-oil exports, federal government suffers 5.8 trillion naira revenue shortfall.
On the Nation newspaper, panic in FCT, Kwara, Ekiti, over 240 fleeing inmates. Gunmen kill soldier, policeman in Kogi prison attack. 75 Zamfara pupils freed, striking doctors disown NMA over Buhari meeting. ICPC invites XIG, DG, budget others. Police trust fund on the probe. IPOB stops pupils from sitting WASSCE exams in Southeast. APC State Congress holds October 2nd. Fitch upgrades Lagos government to AAA rating. Appeal court presidents, judges pay poor, judiciary underfunded. COVID-19, 25 dead in Lagos in 3 days. 4 passengers kidnapped in Ekiti. And lastly, on the Nation newspaper, 4 die, 6 vehicles swept away in Abuja flood.
All right. The Daily Independent coming up next. It says, despite headwinds, insurance premium may hit 1 trillion naira in 2021. COVID-19 has come to stay. We must live with it, says the federal government. Says vaccine delivery would hit 52 million doses by Q2 of 2022. Appeals to striking doctors to suspend action. I am loyal to Obaseki, but there are issues in Edo PDP, says Deputy Governor. Conduct of politicians, judges, and lawyers worrisome, NBA laments. Insecurity, Chief of Army Staff warns commanders against excuses. And we can also find here, Abia government devises measures to stop sit-at-home compliance. Enugu residents lament sit-at-home. Flood kills 4, sweeps 26 vehicles, destroys 166 houses in Abuja. 1 or 2 others, bandits invade military base in Zamfara, kill 12. And gunmen attack Kogi prisons, kill policeman, soldier, free 224 inmates. Those are the big stories on the Daily Independent.
All right. I think we can look at those stories this morning and say hello to our guest, Mr. Chris Wanjo. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So I want us to begin with the good news we're seeing across the papers. And we've seen that on the Punch newspaper. And we've also seen that on the Nation newspaper, Zamfara pupils freed. And also on the Daily Independent newspaper. And it's a story of 75 Zamfara pupils freed. Zamfara State Governor Bello Metawali announced this on Monday that, it's been a while, back and forth negotiations, trying to make sure that these students are released and that finally that they have been rescued with the help of some gunmen who had repented. What do you think about the story?
Well, that's good news, and we want more of that. But in as much as we're celebrating that, don't forget that the onslaught is also ongoing. The bandits in Zamfara and the other neighboring states are still digging in and kidnapping so many other Nigerians. So many of these kidnappings and abductions are not reported. So it's only the high-profile ones that you get to read about or hear about. But I can tell you that there's a lot of kidnapping going up in that as it's. But good enough that this issue of some of the students that were kidnapped have been released. The last report we had was that this year alone, over 1,000, more than 1,000, I can't even go 1,000, over 1,000 students have been kidnapped across the north. Don't forget what happened in Niger State, Zamfara, Katsina, and so many of the other states within the north. And that in itself is a big challenge to the go back to school attempts to make sure that student pupils in the north get the basic education. When you look at in terms of the problem we have with the Amajaris, where everywhere in the north, so many children out of school, and the few ones that are going to school are being kidnapped and abducted on a daily basis, including in Kaduna, where you don't expect it to happen. But good enough, I hope that this will propel the security agencies to also try as much as possible to rescue other school pupils who are still within the codes of the bandits and terrorists, as I call them. I don't like using that word bandits, terrorists, who are just terrorizing this area and kidnapping people for ransom.
Now, let's move to the southeast. One of the things that we had already spoken about this morning, it's on the Daily Independent, the Abia State Governor, it's at the bottom left of the screen, it says Abia government devises measures to stop sit-at-home order, or rather compliance. And it says also Enugu residents lament sit-at-home. If you're also aware, this week, apparently there's been more days added to the sit-at-home. Tuesday for Biafra, members' remembrance, those who were killed in the attack at Nnamdi Kanu's residence. And on Friday, another sit-at-home because of Nnamdi Kanu's trial. So now I want your thoughts on the relevance of the Abia State government's move, and also Governor Willie Obiano of Anambra State, who was walking around yesterday trying to encourage people to come out. Share your thoughts on that.
We've been discussing this for over 3-4 weeks now on every Tuesday on the issue of sit-at-home or sit whatever you call it in the Southeast. And my take has always been that the leaders of the Southeast are not doing enough, especially the governors. They're not doing enough to assure the people of the safety of their lives. And that is why they are sitting at home. I've always said it's not because most of them support IPOB or whoever is giving such instructions, but because of the fact that if they go out, there's the tendency that they'll lose their lives or they'll be attacked. So because of that, they rather stay at home when they know that the government cannot protect them. So if the governors have decided to do what we have been advocating all this while, to be able to reassure the people and put all the necessary security measures in place to make sure that the people are safe, or they feel safe enough, they will come out and do their businesses. And, as you rightly said, I mentioned Governor Willie Obiano took the bull by the horn yesterday and went around Oka and some markets in Anambra State to assure people that their lives are safe, that they should go about their businesses. But whether people will heed to that is something I don't know. But I've always had this, just as I mentioned in one of my social media handles this morning, I feel that those of the South, my people, and I'm an Igbo man, we don't seem to be politically matured enough, just like what those of the Southwest. I'll give you an example. What is happening in the Southeast presently cannot happen in the Southwest. You cannot see the Southwest government people shutting down the economy of the Southwest just because Sunday Igboho is being held in prison or is being held somewhere. You cannot see them doing that. That is one. You cannot also see a situation where people of the Southwest will start going to schools, chasing away students who are writing their exams, or people from going to take exams at the rest of them. You are turning to the Southeast to another educationally disadvantaged place. You are turning the children of the Southeast into Amajaris. What you are not trying to do is not to scare the children from going to school. And once that happens, then there's going to be consequences and serious problems in that. So I don't see that happening in the South. It's not only Nnamdi Kanu that is an agitator, but Sunday Igboho is also in prison. But you don't see the people of the South is behaving the way the way my people are behaving, and that is so. I always say that we need to borrow a leaf from the people of the South. That I'm talking about Igbos or Southeast people now. You might say that there may be some level of difference between what is happening to Igbo, but they are practically the same thing. They are both agitators and they've been arrested. And I have also seen situations where the Southeast leaders also coming out to be able to put in a word or two for Nnamdi Kanu to be able to make sure that this thing is resolved. You can see what is happening to Igbo. Clear leaders of the Southwest are trooping to Benin. Obas have sent emissary, even when former president have gone to Cotonou to see way of making sure that this guy is released. But the same thing is not. But you can also justify that with what happened in this case of Nnamdi Kanu, where some of the leaders stuck out their neck and got their fingers burnt. If you remember what happened to Enyina Abaribe. So if you understand but my own thought is that we must not go this route. The economy of the South is going down on a daily basis, and there doesn't seem to. So the governors should come out and make sure that they assure the people of their safety so that they can go about their businesses without any harassment. And security agencies to be able to take the initiative at this time also to be able to make sure that people's life and properties are protected.
Okay. On the front page of the Punch newspaper, there's a story here on the VAT judgment. It says FIRS may lose 92 billion naira revenue to states. And when we take a swipe on the Leadership newspaper, we see that it's the headlines there on the Leadership. It says VAT battle shifts to National Assembly as lawmakers resume today. Umahi opposes collection by states, and fear grips FIRS tax consultants. So in this story on the Leadership, basically, it's saying that, the lawmakers have resumed after their 2-month recess and that they'll be talking about, this matter because the FIRS had gone to the Constitution Amendment Committee of the National Assembly headed by Senator Ovio Magege, asking it to basically, find out what they would decide on this matter. Who would collect, the VAT, the states or the FIRS? So as the lawmakers begin to debate on this matter, what factors would you want them to consider?
Well, good enough is a constitutional matter, as rightly said. And the lawmakers are there to make laws, and where they see where it's necessary to amend some, they also do that. But basically, as it were presently, based on what the courts have said, it is the right of the states have the right to do what they are doing. It is not within the purview of the federal government or whatever federal agencies to collect VAT from states. And a court in Rivers State have already ruled on that. A law has been passed in Rivers State. Even last week, the governor of Lagos State have signed the Lagos State VAT law into law, and that is what it is. And so, good enough, it is for the FIRS to appeal, which I think they are appealing already, going to the Court of Appeal, where an injunction was given by the Court of Appeal for the status quo to remain. But that to me is what we start seeing is what we call subtle restructuring. These are some of the fundamentals that people have been talking about over the years, that the way Nigerian system is structured now is not working, and there's a need for us to restructure. But the same National Assembly, which is supposed to start this debate or start making this necessary restructuring, are not doing enough. And they've lost the trust of both the state and the people they're representing. So, which is why the states are not taking the initiative. Not only that, don't forget that the stamp duty, states are already started talking about the stamp duty, and they're ready to go to court on that. Let's see what the National Assembly will come out to. But let us even take it a little further. We can also be very creative with this, and this is where I think that FIRS can be creative. Even if the state decides that it is decided that the states have the right to collect their VAT, the federal FIRS can also be more creative about it, because they can collect on behalf of the states. And at the end of it all, and still get their 4%. Don't forget that what goes to FIRS is just 4%. So they can help the states to collect and still get their 4%. Because you know why? Most of the states don't have all the necessary statistics. they don't have the database to be able to effectively collect these tax like the Federal Inland Revenue Service. They already have a data that can use. So even if at the end of it all the court still rules that the states have the right to this VAT, the FRS still can be still more initiative and still get what they are getting. All they need to do is help the state collect this tax and still get their 4%, even this time around, directly from source and disperse back to the state. If you understand what I'm trying to say. So they've not lost anything because FRS is only getting, so that's the mistake most people have believed. They think that FRS gets everything. FRS does not get anything. What FRS gets is just about 4% of that VAT. And which is why you see at the end of it all, they still disperse this money back to the states based on certain sharing formula. So, but what the states are asking that we are not getting enough from the VAT as we're supposed to be, and which is why they're going about this state VAT laws.
Yeah, still on this, I want you to go ahead and share your thoughts on the governor of Ebonyi State, David Umahi, who is speaking against this move by states to, of course, collect their value-added tax. You know, earlier, I think sometime late last week, we had spoken extensively about how this might affect states across the nation, more than 30 states that will be affected if this eventually comes to pass. And so do you think that's where Dave Umahi is speaking from, or is it really just, a support for the presidency that is driving his narrative?
Dave Umahi is the governor of Ebonyi State. He can only speak for Ebonyi State and not for Nigeria. All the governors have a right to determine how they rule their state. If he feels that the FRS should be collecting for his state, well and good.
He's saying, I think he's speaking against states collecting their VAT being paid to states. Basically speaking in support of the FRS and asking that it remains the way it is.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to. That's what I'm saying. In support of FRS and the collecting. What I'm saying in essence is that if the states, every state has a right to determine how the governor or whatever leaders can rule their state or to preside over their state. So, and the governors have come to see a loophole in that tax law and have gone into it. From what I've learned, I learned that there is nothing in the Constitution of Nigeria which gives FRS the right to collect. It was silent. Probably those that drafted the Constitution in 1999 didn't ever say that VAT is going to be a very, very big avenue for revenue collection and rest of them. If you understand what I'm saying, so everybody were probably looking at oil, which was why they so much emphasis on oil. But now we've taken it to a higher, and VAT is becoming a very, very big factor in revenue. And let me say this: whether 30 states are going to die or not, it depends on the creativity of the government. There is no state in this country that does not have resources that they can use and push to drive revenue in their states. There's name one single state. Most of them, we can say that, most of these issues on the exclusive list and rest of them, which also when we're talking about the issue of restoration, where states should be allowed to be able to tap into the resources within their states and not pay something back. That happened in the Post-Republic, and that was how the eastern region, the western region, the northern regions, and the rest. If you remember the days of the Granite Pyramid, the days of cocoa in the south, the days of coal in the east, and rest of them. That was what happened was that within the regions we are allowed to be able to harness the resources within their region and pay a certain percentage to the federal government. The way we are well structured now, the federal government is too big, it's too much an elephant in a room. About 50 to 51% of the revenue, accruable revenue to Nigeria goes to the federal government, whereas 774 local governments and 36 states, including FCT, just barely about 48% to share among themselves. That is not good enough. So I believe that if we are starting looking at this issue of restructuring, where states can be allowed. Let me give a practical example. A state like Kogi State have no reason to go to the federal to collect anything. Kogi State is so rich in mineral resources that whatever is coming from Kogi State can be able to effectively take care of that state. Other some states in the north as well. Agriculture, Benue State. Benue State can fill the whole of West Africa if they are very creative. Gombe State, is it Gombe or which one of the Kebbi State or thereabout? that was having a handshake with Lagos State in the production of rice. I'm sure you still remember that at a point that Lagos was invested in, I think it's KP, and every month you see rice being shipped to Lagos. So what I'm saying in essence, there is no state in Nigeria that cannot support. The problem we have is that every month our governors are so lazy that they send their finance commissioners to Abuja to come and share out of the revenues coming out of the federal. And once they collect that, they just go back to their state and sit back. Lagos State was deprived of its share of the federal allocations. If forgotten during the Obasanjo time. And that was why Lagos State became so creative that for months, they did not depend. They didn't even wait on the federal government again to go. That was how Lagos started, IGR started rising. So I believe that when it comes to a point where certain people or certain states are pushed to the wall, they'll become creative. But the way it is structured now, we are not getting it right.
All right, Mr. Wanjo, I want us to quickly take a look at the stories of 2 strikes in Nigeria. First of all, it's the one with the NARD, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors. So they're basically criticizing the NMA and the presidency for having meetings behind their back, as they've said it. Now, Vice President of NARD said, quote, how can you say you're having dialogue with people who are not concerned? We're the ones having the issues and you're meant to meet with us. And that's because NARD, the NMA and the president met. And, you know, the NMA is now coming back to the NARD to ask them to call off the strike. But the NARD is complaining that they're being sidelined in the conversation. Talking about the strike with ASU. So the Academic Staff Union of Universities insists that the federal government actually has the money to pay the revitalization funds of about 40 billion naira, I believe, and that the federal government has just chosen not to do so. And they're asking the government to go back and implement the MOU that they signed December 20th, 2020. Please, let's have your comments on these 2 stories.
If what NAD is saying is the truth, then that's a stab on the back by NMA. Don't forget, NMA is not on strike. It's NAD that is on strike. So if there's going to be any negotiation, it's going to be the federal government and NAD. NMA can only come in as an observer and cannot be the people that are going to go for negotiation. NMA has nothing at stake here. It is NAD that initiated it. Don't forget that NMA last week issued a warning to the federal government that if the discussion with NAD doesn't go out well as planned, that they will join the strike. So NMA has not joined the strike. It is the National Association of Resident Doctors that's on strike. So if there's going to be any kind of negotiation, then the negotiation should be between NAD and the federal government, and NMA can only be invited as an observer, and they are not going to be the one to negotiate for NAD. So I think that the government is just trying to play politics and try to break the ranks of the doctors. They'll be foolish enough if NMA should be allowing itself to be used against the resident doctors for their demands, which to me is legitimate enough. But NMA should be very, very careful. They should be very careful. Government, anywhere, especially in Nigeria, you don't trust government, because whatever agreement you sign with government today, they will renege on it. And that takes me to what ASU is saying. Don't forget that ASU was on strike for practically one year. And at the end of it, they reached an agreement with federal government. It was signed, sealed, and delivered, as they say in law. But at the end of it all, you could see that the federal government have been able to have reneged on that agreement, which is now prompting ASU saying that, oh, we resume our strike. The same thing with ASU. People have already forgetting the one that they reached with the Academic Union of Polytechnic Lecturers or whatever they are called. That also has been, and that has been system within the government that they go into making promise at the end of it or sign agreements, but they don't live by that agreement. When you call out a strike, they quickly rush to the industrial court to get an injunction to stop that. I think we should stop all this kind of these charades happening here and there. Our government should be trusted. Any government that's fall short of trust with the people, then the legitimacy of that government is in question. And we always be questioned. So I think that I still advise that NMA should tread softly. NAD should be carried along. At the end of it all, it is NAD that is wearing the shoe, and they know where it pitches them. So any agreement with NMA without NAD being carried out of them, that might not work.
All right, Mr. Wanda, quickly also speak on the security challenges, the attack on the army base in Zamfara. It's reports that 12 people were killed, 12 soldiers apparently were killed. And also the Kogi prison break, where more than 240 inmates we are reported to have been set free in Kogi State.
Yes, let me start with the Kogi prison break. It's just unfortunate that we have been having incessant jailbreak, and it seems that the Ministry of Interior doesn't seem to be getting its act together, as well as the prisons. I passed through where that prison is. I passed through the Thursday last week. I'm away from Abuja, and I came by road for certain reasons. And I saw where that, immediately I saw that was my first time of seeing that prison. Immediately I saw that where that prison was, I knew there's going to be issue, as if I was a prophet. And I said within my mind that this place is so prone to attack. That prison is on the Obajana, if you know Kogi State very well, Obajana Kaba, that road is on that express where you have Dangote Cement. After that, it is just in an isolated place, nothing that where it is. And when I passed, I did see the kind of security that you expect to see in front of a prison and the rest of them. So the place is so isolated that it is very prone to attack. You need to see the wall. I've seen several prisons. I've seen the Ikoyi prison. I've seen Kirikiri prison and the rest of them. If you see the wall of that prison, it's so low that anybody an ordinary person can easily climb that place and jump over. So I don't think that the prison authorities are doing the needful in some of these places. Maybe they took people for granted. That is the wall. I'm sure that is the wall of that prison. You can see how small that wall is. If you are nobody can be able to climb the Ikoyi prison wall or Kirikiri prison wall, and it's too low. So I think we should put all the necessary security in place so that we don't continue to have this kind of jailbreaks. One happened during SARS. It happened in Owerri. We've seen in Edo. Kogi has been very consistent in Lokoja and now Kaba. I think the authorities should be able to make sure that enough security is put in place, and they should be able to raise those walls to prevent for the attack, for the military attack in Zamfara. I don't know whether the issue of cutting off of network services is helping the issue of security in Zamfara. In my personal opinion, I don't know how the military will be able to communicate, as security agents will be able to communicate within themselves and be able to need most of this security. They said they have other mechanisms they are using. But my problem is that if you cut off a network, telecommunication services, because you want to cut off the bandits, what of the soldiers on ground? What of the policemen on ground? What of the GSS on ground? How will they communicate within themselves? If somebody is in a far away, 30, 50, 100 kilometers away from where you are, how do you communicate? How do you be able to mobilize your troops to be able to? It's my personal opinion. I'm not a security expert, but my opinion is that probably this issue of cutting off network and the rest of them might not be working. It may have a retrogressive effect on our security architecture, but they know better. But I still feel that we should try to prevent some of this. There was an attack at NDA. Don't forget that also we are still having a major that was kidnapped and abducted. We've gone to sleep with that. Nobody has said anything thereafter. I don't think that young man has been rescued. And I don't know what effort the security agency, especially Nigeria, is making to make sure that that young man is safe. And that is where we find ourselves. Insecurity everywhere, all parts of the country. And who do we blame? If we blame the president, they say people say that we are not being careful enough in the way we blame the president. But the box stop on the table.
Yes, Mr. Wandu, that's a good place to leave it this morning. Thank you very much for joining us on Off the Press. We appreciate your analysis, as always.
Thank you very much for having me, and do have a nice day.
All right, and I'll be going to the year 2015 for Today in History to tell you about a situation that we've seen, too many times in the US, and it's about racial profiling and discrimination.
All right, I'm going still in the United States to the year 1901 to tell you about the 25th American president. And that comes up after the short break here on The Breakfast.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
You're welcome back to The Breakfast on PlusTvAfrica. It's now time for Today in History. And on this day in history, the 14th of September 2015, what happened was that a Muslim teenager was arrested, and that's for carrying a clock that actually looked like a bomb. I mean, according to the teachers, they say that this looked like a bomb, and that's why they arrested him in that school. So his name actually is Ahmed Mohammed. He was a freshman at the time. He was questioned by the police. He was detained. He was led in handcuffs to a juvenile detention center, and he was suspended from school for 3 days for what authorities called a hoax bomb. But it was actually a homemade clock. I mean, it was a clock that he assembled, put together by himself. And Mohammed's arrest actually set off a storm on social media. You know, as what many saw this as an example of racial profiling, as, you know, Islamophobia. And he became known as the clock boy. You know, the hashtag known as I Stand With Mohammed appeared on social media. Mohammed's family filed a lawsuit against, you know, the school district. But of course, that was thrown out. And that teenager did not return to school, and his family returned to Qatar soon after the arrest. And that's what really happened today in history. This young man arrested, 14 years old young man. He was a Sudanese-American high school goer.
Oh, I understand the racial discrimination perspective here, and you know why the hashtag also came up, and you know why that was even considered. But you also can't blame the American criminal justice system and security system because of the PTSD that has risen from 2001. It's unfair, no doubt, but at the same time, there's always going to be little pockets here and there of things like that. I listened to a podcast yesterday of the racial, discrimination that happened in the years. Even, 2015 is even far. From 2001 to about 2005, 2006, there was huge racial discrimination in the United States against Arabs, who were Americans who had, no terrorist links or anything. But as long as you were Arab, there was a lot of that was going on. Pretty much the same thing that started happening after. Americans sometimes just disappoint you. But pretty much the same thing happened after COVID-19 started. There was some attacks on Asians in the United States for a while. And mostly some people would say, well, because of from President Donald Trump's narrative and his speeches and some of all of that. But it's both ways. Yes. It could be racial profiling. At the same time, there's certain things that just are kind of like red flags. You don't just go carrying a clock, up and down. Seeing the times that we currently are living in.
You don't just go carrying a clock?
Yeah, I mean...
He made a clock and took it to school. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely nothing wrong with it, but because of the little
they should have done their due diligence and investigated before subjecting him to such inhumane treatment.
So that's where they got it wrong, So if you look at a clock and you ask him what that is, and it says, oh, just a clock I made at home, that's where it should have ended. You probably, x-ray the clock or put it through a scanner and see there's nothing, and you let him go on his way. The fact that he had to be suspended from school for 3 days, before the fact that he had to be handcuffed, that was completely unnecessary. And that's where, you can point out that there definitely is racial profiling, especially in 2015. This is 14 years after 9/11. I don't know. I can't defend any of them in this way. I'm also guessing that if it was a white kid who brought that clock, nobody would have raised any eyebrows.
I mean, that was also part of the conversations that came up. That the reaction to white kid inventors were very different. Of course, they're praised, celebrated. They invite them on, big TV shows to talk about the invention. But it's a white kid here, or it's a black kid, a Muslim kid, it seems to be a different narrative.
It's pretty sad. You know, I think from 9/11, the events from 9/11 have been really, really sad. You know, 2,977 lives were lost on September 11, 2001. Close to 1.5 million lives were lost in the war in Afghanistan and in Iraq. And 1.5 million people that weren't necessarily terrorists. But anyway, let's still in the United States. We're moving to 1901. We're moving back now to 1901 to talk about the 25th president of the United States. His name is President William McKinley. He died on this day after being shot, you know, a couple of days earlier by an anarchist. And this event eventually led to a huge decision, you know, over who really should protect the United States president. His deputy then, Theodore Roosevelt, took over from him, and there were, you know, some, you know, court cases. There were, you know, a lot of debates over whether the Secret Service should continue, because President McKinley at that time wasn't necessarily moving around with any protection. He loved to walk around the streets and meet people and have, you know, handshakes here and there. But after, you know, his death or his assassination by an anarchist, there then were huge debates over who should protect the United States president. They, you know, arguing either between the Secret Service or the United States Army. But eventually, you know, the courts gave a ruling that it should be the Secret Service. He died on the 14th of September of gangrene, which were caused by the wounds because one of the bullets couldn't be taken out of him. He was shot twice in the stomach, and one of the bullets, you know, was left inside of him by the doctors. They couldn't find it because, of course, it's 1901. There weren't necessarily X-rays back then. So, you know, that's what eventually led to his death. The person who shot him, I can't pronounce his name, I think is Goz, had lost his job during the economic panic of 1893 and eventually turned to an anarchist. And of course, had huge issues with leadership in the United States and across the world, and supported prior assassinations of previous American presidents, and took it upon himself to assassinate William McKinley. He had tried to meet with him twice, or tried to assassinate him twice in the past, but didn't get close enough until this, you know, this particular event. McKinley died on this day. He was shot a couple of days earlier, and Theodore Roosevelt eventually took over as United States president.
Sad one. He actually shot on the 6th of September 2021, 1901, and sadly died September the 14th. Too bad what happened in this day in history. Yeah.
All right, 1901 and 2015, on both in the United States. Now, let's take a short break. When we come back, we're moving to our first major discussion for today. Our off-the-press guest has already started, you know, that conversation, and that is the jailbreaking Kogi State. What exactly happened, who, you know, is currently at risk, and what is the Kogi State government and the Ministry of Interior needing to do to ensure that those prisoners are found and brought back to prison. We'll be back.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there is regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. NIMASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
Welcome once again to The Breakfast here on Plus TV Africa. Our first major conversation for today goes to Kogi State, where there is a report of an attack on the Kaba Custodial Center, where about 240 inmates were reportedly set free by armed men who stormed the prison and, of course, killed the security agents who were stationed right there outside to protect the prisoners. We're going to be speaking this morning with Mr. Segun Showumi. He's joining us to share his views on this incident. There's also reports that 28 of the prisoners stayed back, and a few others have been rearrested. We'll say good morning to Mr. Showumi. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Plus TV. How are you guys doing?
We're doing very well this morning. All right, so let's get your views on, the incident first of all. It's, of course, very shocking any time this happens. The last time we heard of anything like this was during the NSAS protest, where it happened in a few states across the country. But once again, we're hearing of a jailbreak. People have also shared analysis on, the fact that the prison itself didn't seem like a very secure place. But what are your thoughts, first of all?
Well, thank you very much. Let me first of all lay some foundation. I usually run my personal life by having a dashboard in front of me, like a Nigerian media dashboard. And in that Nigerian media dashboard, I look at everything in the country, and those things that, become like a sticking finger, I follow through. In the case of Kogi, for some times now, I have nervously waited for when people are going to start putting a target on Yaya Bello's back. Because, number one, I noticed that it's been, his profile has been growing. People have been endorsing him on a lot of things. A lot of attention and interest has been put there. And suddenly, first they started with one major allegation from EFCC, which he has to struggle to explain his own version of it. And because he has a state where he has about 10 neighbors, and of all of the states in Nigeria, especially under the present circumstances of herdsmen killing and all of those issues, I have been curious to say, how is this young man keeping that place secure? And then suddenly I wake up and they tell me, some people have gone to Kaba prison, they've broken it and all that. And I first said, why do we give governors a lot of problems in this country needlessly? It's called the Federal Republic of Nigeria for a purpose. And they have their schedule of responsibility, exclusive list, federal list, state list. None of the securities
All right. It seems we may have lost Shegun Showumi there. Okay.
How will a state governor possibly be able to be everywhere, looking at every facility, including federal facility? So I think the first thing is that we have gotten to a point where we must review the security architecture and give governors more opportunities and powers to do things to secure their state, legitimately over and above all these vigilantes. First point. The second point is, once an incident happens, and incidents are bound to happen, there will be sub-targets, there will be criminal elements, there will be all sorts of reasons why things happen. You need to now look at what are the immediate remedial actions that people have taken. And for me, what I see is that immediately they sang into action, immediately they started pursuing and arresting the people, immediately they've gotten a lot of people back, and now they are at the incident location, the ground zero with their people, looking at precisely what will be done. And at the end of the day, I can bet you, I'm not in Kogi, I've not been there to look at their government structure, and I've never even spoken to Abilo in life. But what I suspect is that they're now going to, the governor, and now in this case, because we're using Kogi, they're going to be under a lot of pressure now to help them secure that kind of facility and such other kind of facility. So therefore, I say that when a nation has security challenges, it's time for that nation to look at it holistically and provide the people that are the first line, people in charge who have to explain more powers, more responsibility, more authority, more legislative framework to fix the problem. Rather than that. And if you ask me, I think that my gut feeling when I first saw the thing is that, this police guy, these people have started. They won't let anybody that is doing something positive even enjoy some peace. Conspiracy theory. I was beginning to think like a conspiracy theorist. So I had to bring myself back from the conspiracy theory angle to say, okay, let me now diagnose it and look at it. So I think it's unfortunate. The federal government has to look for how it's going to secure its own facilities. These correction centers are exclusively underneath the Ministry of Internal Affairs. They've had jailbreaks. I think there was one during here, like you said, during exile, all over the place. If it is a prison, it has to be secure. And then we need to also know whether, is there a particular prisoner in that particular prison that they would have been trying to, get escape. But there's a lot of issues. Make it easy for ourselves. Nigeria is a big country. We have 36 states. We need to give the governors more security powers to be able to do a whole lot more. If a state needs a state police and can recruit and pay for it, we should have a multimodal policing system where they can now provide that. Why should the federal government sit in Abuja and try to do everything when in the real sense of the word, they can't really do everything?
Mr. Showmi, this story has made international headlines. About 240 inmates escaped from that correctional facility in Kogi State. I want us to look at what's likely to happen in the next few hours after this event. And who is likely to be at risk? What are going to be the consequences of this situation?
I think if I know, because I've been following them for some time, like I said, and I said I have a dashboard, and that guy, Ayabilo, is now coming very high up in my dashboard. So if I know them well, by the pattern of what I've seen how he's done, he's going to be Yabelo is going to be going ballistic now. I can imagine. He's going to be screaming, he's going to be walking, he's going to be telling people, I want result, I want result, I want result. You guys can't mess me up on the thing that I've been very good on. So I think that in a few days, they're going to pursue. They're likely going to make sure that the entire environment is combed. They're going to work with the security structure of the country. I have a feeling that the people in the Ministry of Internal Affairs themselves are going to go in there. I expect that the police from the headquarters will also increase their surveillance there. I expect that the Army Records and some of the other paramilitary joint task force will also go in there. I expect that they are going to make the immediate Kogi environment, they're going to lock up a bit and try to profile and see whether there's any strange person all over the place. They will try. And I think they've started getting some result. Within a few days, they've gotten, I think the last time I checked, I'm told that about 100 and something has returned back. I'm aware that a lot of people are also being pursued. I'm aware that they are profiling the characters of people. And I pity them because they are bordered by about 10 states. So you can imagine the huge logistics work that it will require from them to man all their 10 border states to look at how it's going on. If they are lucky, they may be able to get some collaborative effort with all of those 10 states who will also be helping us. So Kogi is a nightmare when it comes to managing security. And so certainly, with every sense of responsibility, I think that I'll be interested in seeing how Yaya manages this. And I wish him all the luck so that when he does it well, I can say, you see, I told you guys, there's something that guy is doing that is different from everybody.
Yeah, but I want us to look back at, other incidents in Edo and in Warri, where there were prison breaks during the NSAS protests. There's no records that all of those prisoners have been found and brought back to prison. And so, why does that also then say or, tell that it might be the same case here, that we might have dozens of these prisoners just completely disappear into thin air and never be found?
Well, I think that which you have brought up now takes us to another area in terms of the national conversation of how we want to run our country. I have insisted continuously for years now that if you do not have a country like Nigeria, if you don't have a verifiable, biometrically strong identification for people that links them and places them in a verifiable address, we will be in trouble. Why? Because even when things happen, you can't go back and use forensic to precisely know who, where, what, who, and all of that. And because you don't know where they live to a verifiable address, you can't look at you can't do a dragnet around their, the families and all that to begin to check and see whether they will contact them. And at the end of the day, if you break jail and you don't have all of this, you are going to be a fugitive forever. If you are not in prison for death or for life sentence, what kind of life do you want to live when you're going to be running for the rest of your life? It's always better to know that if you cannot do the time, don't do the crime. If you do the crime, calmly do the time. Because at the end of the day, prison is not a death sentence. If it is not, if it's not forever, you can always be pardoned, you can always be rehabilitated, you can always finish your time and go back. But if you run away from the law, then you are a fugitive for life. And with due
we may once again have
the full security as in charge of it.
Mr. Shomi, can you hear us?
I can hear you. If the federal government that is in charge of the whole security cannot take full responsibility, I think we need to understand we're making governors to become endangered species while we have not given them the structure that will give them the power to truly be responsible and accountable. Okay. So far so good. They are all trying their best. The one that happened in Edo, what could the individual there do? The one that happened, if anything happens in that kind.
It's unfortunate that we're having network challenges there, connecting with Mr. Ashomi. But in case, just to bring you up to speed, what's happened in Kogi State now is that hundreds of prisoners, news reports say 240, have escaped from the Medium Federal Correctional Center in Kaba in Bono local government area of Kogi State. Gunmen had allegedly attacked the prison center on Sunday night to Monday morning. They first attacked and then have killed at least 2 military men who were stationed on the road to the prison before they attacked that prison facility and, you know, set all the prisoners free. You can see video clips on your screen right now showing the prison facilities. It doesn't look good. It doesn't really look good. What we're seeing there on the screen as a prison facility. We can hardly see, basically, first of all, taking a look at the level of the wall, we had a guest earlier talk about the fact that doesn't seem like something secure. It seems like a fence that is easily scalable. And we take a look at the windows, we take a look at the doors, we take a look at the ceilings of that prison. It doesn't look like a good structure to hold criminals who have been convicted of, criminal offenses. But that really is what we're seeing in Nigeria. And it's not the first time we've seen jailbreaks in Nigeria, specifically in Kogi State in particular. The last of such prison breaks we saw in Kogi State was in 2019, where over 200 inmates escaped when their prison cells was flooded. So it seems to be a pattern we've seen now, because one of the reasons why these prisoners in Kogi State were able to escape Sunday night to Monday morning was because they took advantage of the heavy rains and the flood that ensued in the state. In 2019, it was the same thing. They used the cover of the rain to escape. So it really makes us ask questions regarding the structure of our prison facilities. What kind of security do we have? Where are they sited? Also brings into question flood management in Nigeria, because if the issue of flooding and rains would be enough cover for prisoners to escape, really, some agencies in Nigeria, some government officials should begin to answer questions regarding, their duties. And we also have updates regarding the situation. Minister of Interior, Rauf Aribishala, says they have activated a special task force to recapture inmates who fled from the prison. And Rauf Aribishala also said that the International Criminal Police Organization, Interpol, has been put on notice to look out for any inmates who may attempt to flee the country. And this takes me to my next point regarding what Mr. Segun Shomi was earlier saying, that we lack, this database system in Nigeria. I mean, these prisoners, do we really have record keeping? Do we know the names? I mean, can the people involved bring a register of the names of the people, their addresses, their families, where they live? Do we have those records? And if we don't have those records, it really leaves us in a messy situation. Because how would you say Interpol should stop people from traveling when you don't even have records of these people? We don't know who they are. We don't have their profile. They can easily travel to another state and find work, no questions asked. So really lots of things come into place. Nigeria's database system, our flood management system, our security system, especially regarding our prison and correctional facilities.
I personally don't think it's that bad that they don't have the names and addresses of every prisoner. I'm sure that
I'm not saying they don't. I'm saying do they have?
I'm pretty sure that they do. I don't want to imagine that it is that bad. I'm sure that, yes, there are lapses here and there, but it cannot be that bad that they don't have the address of everyone who has been arrested and sentenced to jail. Because when you go through that court process, there's no way you're going through the whole judicial process, you repeated court dates before your sentencing, and they don't even know your address. I don't think that's possible. So I'm very sure that they would have those details. But whether those bits of information are still relevant, whether they still live in those places or not, those are maybe the things that will be important. No prisoner is going to run back home immediately he leaves jail. That's one thing. Of course, as a criminal, you're not going to go back to your house where police is going to come look for you. Can they leave the country? I don't also think it's going to be that easy. They're not living in prison with their international passports. So they're not necessarily, yes, we have porous borders and some of all of that. I think it's also important to know the danger that this, really presents to the residents in Kogi State, knowing that people who have been convicted for various crimes, for murder, for rape, for whatever you can imagine, are now, loose in the streets, looking for a place, desperate for survival. And so they're maybe even more dangerous at a time like this. What infrastructure I feel that we lack entirely is CCTV cameras, to know exactly where they run to know exactly where they are, and nobody needs to tell you that Kogi State doesn't have any of all those things. So you cannot in any way have a Google page, or anything, cameras to pinpoint exactly what direction each prisoner ran to. To the best of your knowledge, you may not have a camera on every street, but at least you should be able to tell, that this is the direction they ran to, this is where you can set for them. Facial recognition software and some of all that. We don't have that. So it might make it more difficult. It's now also important that the people of Kogi State be able to point out strange faces in their community. If you see any strange face that you haven't recognized or you haven't seen in a while here, you should be able to point out and call to the attention of the police. That there is somebody here that we think might be one of the people who escaped from prison. And some of all of that. It's a huge responsibility. He started by talking about the political angle and how this would affect the, profile of Governor Yahaya Bello, which I personally don't also think, is the most vital detail here. I think the most vital thing is getting these people back. The political angle. I saw Femi Fani-Kayode also putting out a statement like that yesterday, that I'm not sure why. But we'll go on a short break, and we'll be back after this short break here on The Breakfast.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
Increase the reach of your events and services. Advertise on Plus TV Africa. Call 0906 000 5719, 0705 112 3456, or email marketing@PlusTvAfrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
You're welcome back to The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. We're still talking about that prison break in Kogi State with our guest, a political affairs analyst, Mr. Segun Shomi. So, Mr. Shomi, I want us to consider this, important issue that has been persistent regarding all the prison breaks that we've seen in Kogi State. I mentioned earlier that in 2019, when we had a similar event, a prison break, it was under the guise of the flooding. The heavy rains, the downpour, that these prisoners escaped. The same thing Sunday night to Monday morning, there was heavy rains and that's how they were able to escape. How do we bring in the angle of flood management, into this conversation?
Well, thank you very much. Before we even go to the flood management, there's one important thing I thought that is good for us to know or share. Do you know that by the structure we run in the country, prison itself is exclusively the responsibility of the federal government? Let me break it down. It means that, since Kogi is the example, if somebody commits a crime under Kogi law and they take him to court under Kogi law and they commit him to custodial prison under Kogi law, do you know that by our constitution, from that minute, it becomes a federal property? It's of annoyingly crazy. You need to let the states also have correctional facilities. That's why you see that all over the country, we have mostly very archaic facility. We have facilities that are not secure enough to even keep animals, let alone keep smart people and criminals. You have security, you have students where we're not even managing them efficiently. We are truly due for a major overhaul. As for the flogging, anybody that wants to commit a crime will look for the best time or the best set of scenarios that can aid them to commit the crime. Yes, we have some parts of our country that are floodplains. You are going to need a whole lot of engineering work to be able to manage that. And hello, where in the world will we say we have seen places that are under flooding or water issues that don't get flooded? Just a couple of days ago, Americans had to paddle their canoes to get home. Some places have to deal with fire every time that comes up. There are some natural occurrences that make situations difficult. But in our own case in Nigeria, we have just insisted that we're not going to give ourselves a fit-for-purpose federation, which allows us to solve problems where they occur. You cannot insist that people can commit crime in Kano, and then you say that the Kano system that can go to a high court, that can go to a penal code, cannot now have a custodial process to keep them. It doesn't make sense.
All right. And also, I spoke earlier about the danger that these, prisoners pose to the society in Kogi State until they are found. That's also very important. And, I think it's also important that the people of Kogi State be at alert to point out and to call the police.
Imagine if it was in England or maybe America, any of those countries. Imagine if there was a prison break, and imagine if there were story people going out. Let me tell you one of the things that will probably happen immediately. First of all, you are going to have situations where immediately they're going to be going after them via profiling. Do you get what I mean? They're going to be putting out their pictures. They're going to be asking people who see them to recognize them. They're going to be checking up their next of kin and all of that. They're going to be tapping the telephones of people that they probably will be calling. There will be a complete sting operation to make life difficult for them, and they're going to smoke them out. And if they dare escape, they're going to make them fugitives for life. If you don't have this baseline infrastructure, you are not going to be able to do much. And if you don't give governors some more legislative responsibilities to provide the kinds of security that is multimodal, you're going to have a situation where you're just going to be blaming them in a situation where they're not even the ones that have the responsibility. The federal correctional system in all states in the country, including Kogi, is the exclusive responsibility of the federal government.
Okay, Mr. Shomi, you have outlined what should be done in an ideal society with all the security infrastructure in place. But let's look at our Nigerian reality right now. Rauf Aribishala, Minister of Interior, has said they've set up a special task force to smoke these people out and have also brought in Interpol into the picture. What do you expect realistically for these people to do to ensure that these prisoners are apprehended?
I tell you that sometimes when we're doing analysis, me inclusive, we tend to have, a view of today, and we forget about all of the issues of yesterday and yesteryears. I'm saying this because I know Rafiu a little bit, and I have an idea of his psychology. He's also going to be trying to look for the best way to mitigate this challenge. But if the rot has existed for 60 years, you are not going to overnight solve all of the problems. So the things he's throwing in, Interpol, will smoke them, joint task force, that's the best he can throw at it. And now that he has thrown it at it, I believe they have their pictures. And just like your colleague said, I believe they have their names because they must have a record of who they kept and who was sent to prison. I believe that they will have their fingerprints. I believe that they will have one or two things that they can use. And we can only hope that the system at the borders, the system within country, the citizens' contribution to intelligence, we can only hope that all of it comes together to get us out of this. You know why? We're talking about criminals here. And with criminals who don't even want to do their time, who are interested in jailbreak, they will likely be repeat offenders. And that means that the larger society must now be on guard, watch out for strange faces, watch out for people that are loitering, people who are renting houses, watch out for the profile of people who are trying to rent houses, people who are running hotels, watch out for people who are coming in to say they want to have a room for 1 or 2 days. You have to look at the back end places of the shanties. It's a lot of work. But my approach is that when we have a situation, we should deal with that situation. We should learn the right lessons from that situation. And as much of the reform that we need to put in place so that that kind of situation doesn't really easily occur, we should do it. And one of the things that I am saying is that it's time for the system to allow states to have their own correctional facilities. If states have their correctional facilities, imagine if that prison belonged to Kogi State. Then everybody will say, hey, dude, how did you leave the prison unsecure? How did you leave it so mismanaged? Because we could hold him responsible. But it belongs to the presidency. And therefore, who are you going to hold responsible for a prison in Kalnam and Boda? It's too far away from where the supervisory authority is.
All right. Shegun Showome, I think we can leave it here. Thank you very much for your time and for speaking with us this morning. And of course, we wish you a very interesting Tuesday ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're most welcome.
Absolutely. From Kogi, we're now going to be talking about another crisis in Nigeria where more than 2,300 deaths have been recorded, and that is with regards to a cholera outbreak that, of course, doesn't seem to be spoken about enough. We're getting into that conversation with the medical personnel right after the short break.
the way your baby's presenting, we have to rush you in. And my partner at the time was like, "You're going to cut her? Are you going to cut her? Is it going to leave a scar?" And I said, "Am I a belly dancer? What is the problem here?"
No, I'm vulnerable about the future of the children, the future of mine and the future of the generation of my children.
I want to have nude pictures taken.
Of you?
Yes,
Yeah,
but
we
without
had that
showing my private parts. I want to put it in my front room. And they said, "You can't do that. People will be embarrassed when they came into your house." I said, "Well, it's my body and it's my front room."
All the things that we do, what is the purpose of it?
I just realized that I was more trusting before I was 6. So many women, they just feel like I have to cook for my husband, I have to breastfeed my children, I have to pick them from school.
Because society expects
Then you
them
go
to.
home and you cry and you stop your career, you can't do anything, then you blame everybody. You took that choice.
You're welcome back to The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Let's now talk about health. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has released a situational report of cholera cases in Nigeria. And we've invited Dr. Emmanuel Okafor to discuss this with us. Good morning, Dr. Okafor.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
The NCDC is reporting over 70,000 cholera cases in Nigeria and over 2,300 deaths in 25 states and the FCT. Do you think Nigerians understand the gravity of this situation?
To a large extent, I don't think the general populace has a full grasp of what is going on in the community in terms of the cholera outbreaks, because the number of suspected cases and, of course, the number of suspected deaths have been on the rise for quite a while now. Right from, like you said, right from January the 1st up to now, over 70,000 deaths, over 70,000 suspected cases, and over 2,000 deaths, which is quite a significant amount, when you look at, the number that we actually detect. So I think important information is to be passed to the public concerning what is going on. And, I believe that's what we're doing right here. And this will go a really large way. Okay.
All right. Talk a little bit more about what cholera is and how it is spread. Because if we're talking about 25 states, does it mean that the water in 25 states in Nigeria currently, are, infected?
Yeah.
So what exactly is cholera and how is it spread?
Okay, here's what cholera is. Cholera is primarily a waterborne disease, right? It is an intestinal infection caused by a certain bacteria. It's the passage of high amounts of watery diarrhea. Okay, here is some of the signs in which one might suspect they have cholera is the watery diarrhea, like we said, large amounts. It may start off with having some stool in it, right? Some fecal matter in it. But, as it progresses, because cholera can have a clinical manifestation within 2 to 3, 4, 5 days of, it getting started. So, apart from the watery diarrhea, you could have nausea. That's the feeling of wanting to vomit. You could actually vomit. And like I said earlier, it may start off as just watery stool, and you're still seeing some materials that suggest it's stool. But as it progresses and as it gets worse, it just becomes like a white, opaque fluid, right? Like we usually liken it to rice water, the water that you get after you wash rice or when you want to cook rice. When you notice your stool has become like that, right? And you're seeing that it is really, the amount you're getting is really large. There's a high chance that, cholera is ongoing. And like I said, it's an infection with a certain kind of bacteria.
Yeah, but how is it, how does cholera spread? Is it through dirty water
yes.
or through food?
Yes. Yeah, okay. Cholera spreads through contaminated food and contaminated water. So it goes both ways, right? So once you have water, because you have the organism that is causing it primarily, right? It has human reservoirs and water reservoirs. Those are the two primary reservoirs in which you have them. So once you have contact with someone that has, let's say someone that has cholera, right, goes ahead to prepare your food, because cholera is not always symptomatic. You don't always have symptoms from cholera, right? So you could have somebody, so just imagine a food seller who has cholera, but is not showing any symptoms, constantly preparing food for people. She's not washing her hands. She's not following good hygiene practices. You will just have, cholera spread to a whole lot of people. Also, places that have, poor access to water, clean water, you could have, a body of water that is, wildly contaminated with the organism, and they just take it in, right? And we experience this in certain parts of Nigeria where open defecation is common practice, right? People just go to large bodies of water and, dump the excreta there. When someone goes ahead to drink that water, right? No boiling, no chlorination, nothing to take care of the water. The person consuming such water, consuming such food as earlier described, yes, could get cholera. So that is how it spreads.
Okay, I want you to tell us more about how it spreads, because I've spoken to other medical practitioners and they also emphasized on seafood and how it should be prepared to avoid cholera. Please tell us more about that. Okay, when it comes to seafood, you could have it, we notice, sometimes things like crabs, you could have the bacteria, the organism causing it, stay in those kind of organisms in water bodies. So the primary thing there is to make sure if you're taking seafood that you boil it well, right? Emphasis on boiling. For example, in crabs, for people eating crabs, it's been demonstrated that, if you boil it for up to 10 minutes, if you boil the crab for up to 10 minutes, the likelihood of you getting cholera is super low. But even though if you just deviate from that a little bit, right, we have still seen cholera, in significant quantities in crabs that are boiled over a shorter period of time than 10 minutes, right? Say 8 minutes, we still see some growth of the bacteria. But 10 minutes, generally, you're good to go in boiling your seafood. Well, that's in addition to what I mentioned earlier, how people could get it. You mentioned crabs. How about fishes? Do we also need to take such precaution? Especially when you drive around Lagos, these bridges, you see fishermen, putting their hook and bait into the water and, they catch these fishes. People buy them on the roadside. Do we also need to take such precautions? So generally, right, whatever is going into your mouth, whatever is going into your body, through your mouth, especially as it pertains food, right? Once it's edible, once you're thinking of consuming it, you want to make sure that it is appropriately cooked or appropriately boiled, right? This can't be overemphasized because, doing less than is necessary, doing less than you should could lead to, one getting cholera, of course. Okay. Now let's talk about managing cholera. We're hearing about 70,000 cases, 2,300 dead. Talk about the process of managing a patient that has been found to have cholera. Okay, well, I'll start off by talking about its prevention, right? Because, I believe most of the doctors already know what to do in the cases of cholera. Most important thing to tell people, that are, going to be viewing this right now, that are watching this right now, is to prevent it in the first place, right? We want to make sure that they are taking whatever water they are taking, they properly boil it and they store it safely, right? Another thing is to make sure that whatever food that they are eating is properly cooked. They want to cook it thoroughly. They want to make sure they're also preparing it in a safe and in a clean environment. The other thing is to make sure that people wash their fruits, their vegetable, whatever raw foods they are taking. You want to make sure you don't just pick it and start consuming. You want to make sure you wash it thoroughly. People should also practice good hand hygiene, right? Wash your hands regularly, sanitize your hands when you need to, and for people to also avoid open defecation. Okay, people, the habits of just dumping, excreta maybe close to water bodies or in water bodies should be eaten of the past, to be honest. And then patronizing just any food you see on the road, you want to be careful with that because you don't even know, the process that goes into preparing it. That being said, when it comes to the doctors and managing patients that, have cholera ongoing, our primary
thing that we're looking at is to replace the fluids the person is losing, right? Because the person is losing fluids and electrolytes. In this instance, let's just call them body chemicals.
Yeah.
So the person is losing all these through either the stooling, which is frequent, which is profuse, like I said. It can get so bad that the person can actually pass on within some hours of developing, acute symptoms of cholera. Right, so you want to replace those fluids, and remember the person might be vomiting as well. So I want to replace those fluids as soon as possible. We want to replace those electrolytes as soon as possible. That is the main thing that is going on in our mind, because that is the primary thing that even kills people, right? Not just the infection in itself. It's the dehydration that comes with the infection. So I want to make sure we manage that. Then, of course, we have our, antimicrobial therapies and other therapies that we use to, support such patients that we discover have a case of cholera ongoing.
Okay, Dr. Okafor, when we look at the statistics that the NCDC has put out their report, it says that Bauchi State has the highest number of cases, 566, while Borno State recorded the most deaths, that's 13 in the past week. But I want us to talk about the myth that cholera is a disease you can only get in the rural areas, because we know about the prevalence of open defecation, people pouring into bodies of water, and then people going to the streams to use that water to drink and cook without properly washing and boiling. So we know about that. But there's also that misconception that, I'm in an urban city like Lagos, I can't get cholera. I want you to address that, especially with how our buildings are being constructed. When your borehole is sited up and your borehole is sited down, and then your sockaway pit is sited up, and the possibility of that seeping into the water that you consume. Please tell us more about that.
Okay, so there is no question, there's no doubt that cholera is more common in rural communities, right? And that is simply because access to clean water is per se more common at this time in the urban cities, right? Access to facilities that process water, that decontaminate water is more common in urban cities. But that being said, the possibility of having cholera is not excise involved, right? As long as food that people are consuming is involved, there is always that possibility. So it's just the responsibility of having a heightened sense of awareness of this disease, right? Especially now that there's an outbreak ongoing. People want to make sure that they do their possible best, to prevent it in their own communities, to prevent it in their own families by taking care. Yet cases happen in urban centers. That is a fact, right? So it is not even something that should be in anyone's mind that the sheer fact that they're staying maybe in Lagos, sheer fact that they're staying in an urban community, that they're exempt from it. And just like you said, boreholes needs to be sited at the appropriate places. Even the process of going to the toilet, right, of passing feces has to be done appropriately. The sewage that we produce has to be disposed properly, even in these urban centers. And the urban centers have more sewage disposal rates than the others. So everything has to be in place, right? What is preventing the cholera is the appropriate practice that we take, not just the fact that we're in an urban center.
All right. Is there also home remedies? Is there ways to manage a cholera patient at home? Or, the case must be taken, or the person must be taken to the hospital?
Yeah, the person, once you present with a case of profuse diarrhea, once you suspect you have cholera, there is no room for you to stay at home and manage it. No, you present to the hospital. The doctor will be the one to tell you, okay, you can take this at home, right? But doctor will be the ones to assess you, because someone could actually be on the brink of, kidney shutdown as a result of dehydration and still think that they can manage it at home, right? Cholera is something that once it gets started, right, once you start having clinical symptoms, it can get really, really bad, really, really quick. So you want the assessment and everything to be done in a hospital. The doctor will know whether he's admitting you. He will know whether he's comfortable with saying, oh, okay, it's not gotten super bad so far that you can, take so. And the doctor has to tell you what to take as well, right? Because it goes beyond you just buying some medications, maybe trying to drink water or something. No, there's much more to it than that. So every case of suspected cholera, we advise that the person gets medical attention as soon as possible.
Okay, my first question to you earlier was if Nigerians understand how serious this cholera situation is. And you just mentioned, the possibility of a kidney shutdown because of cholera. Can you tell us more about that? And, the challenges that we might have with, internal organs, when someone is diagnosed with cholera and they don't treat it fast?
Oh, okay. It's pretty simple, right? Once there is dehydration ongoing in someone's body, once someone is not having as much fluid as they should come into their body, and the kidney is primarily responsible for filtering some of the things that ought not to be in the body, right? And it needs fluid to go through it regularly. Once that is not being done, once lack of supply of fluids to the necrosis, right? It's just partial death of some parts of the kidney, and you would see the kidney start to malfunction. It could go into an acute. You could have something called acute kidney injury, which could progressively lead to a chronic kidney disease and other kidney pathogenic manifestations. So we just want to make sure the most important thing that the population needs to know right now is that dehydration can have more consequences than they know, especially when they start feeling weak, right? That's a big thing for us, right? When someone that has been stewing a lot, start feeling so weak that they don't even want to take water at all. They don't want to be fed orally at all. They're just generally lethargic. So to everybody listening, it's a pretty serious thing, right? It's not just that you're pooing more than usual. It's something that you need to get help immediately. Get help as soon as possible. Don't try to wait it out at home. Don't try to endure it and see. Don't try to chest it and put, right? Just present and get care. It is something that once we start treating early, right, fatality rates, people that die is much, much less than 1%, right? Not even close. But it is also something that without treatment, that's where we see high number of cases of deaths from this cholera go up. So cholera has been there for a long, long time, right? Even as early, there have been cases that were described that are similar to cholera as far back as, I think, 360 BC. So it's super, super important that, so it's not something that we're unaware of. It's not something that we're not been dealing with. So it's super important that people get care for this thing that's persisted for this long.
Dr. Okafor, finally, quickly also share if there is any age group that is more at risk to fatality with regards to cholera. And also your, once again, warning to Nigerians who are watching about the severity of this disease and what must be done.
Yeah, okay, so when it comes to age predisposition, we see that most of the cases, especially in the country, right, according to the reports that we have from the NCDC, that has been really active with activities. They've sent out different rapid response teams to the most affected communities, started a cholera emergency operations center just to help with surveillance, detection, and immediate treatment. Sorry, 1 second. The ages that we see that are predisposed to this most is from 5 to 14 years, right? We see the most cases or the most affected people within that age range, 5 to 14 years, right? I remember these are children. They need care as soon as possible. It's not something that their parents should just be watching and hoping for the best. It is something super serious. In children, it can go bad pretty quick, right? And outcomes also in terms of morbidity, in terms of fatality, are worse in children than it is in adults. So cholera is something to be taken seriously, especially because of how it spreads, right? It's not, like I said, an adult can be asymptomatic. You may not show any symptoms. Someone may not even show any symptoms from having cholera, right? So you might have, let's say, an asymptomatic parent preparing food regularly for the children, right? And the children everybody's just tuning and they're wondering what's going on. So having that in mind, it is important that we pay attention to all the prevention methods that, I mentioned earlier in the show, and that we should also, work towards, eliminating this totally the best way that we can by following the processes I mentioned. Everyone should be highly alert. There's an outbreak going on. Be highly alert about, the cholera outbreak that is ongoing. Take adequate. Now is not the time for you to be drinking any kind of water. Now is not the time for you to be taking any kind of food, right? It may not show on the person's face. The person could be walking, could be cooking. In fact, in history, there's a popular case of that, I won't be able to go into details, where one person just gave so many people without even on her. She had no symptoms whatsoever, right? But several people were dying as a result of this. So let's wash our hands, prepare our food properly, and take clean water. So that's it. Thank you.
All right. Dr. Emmanuel Okafor, thank you very much for your time and for speaking with us. And of course, I hope that the message has been properly spread, and we wish you a great day ahead.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely.
Yes, and that's it on this edition of The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. We've really had an interesting run, beginning with that police officer who was denied asylum in Canada because of his association with the Nigerian police force, all through to the Kogi prison break story, and now having a medical doctor share with us the importance of good hygiene because of the increasing cases of cholera in Nigeria. If you missed out on any part of the conversation, do follow us on all our social media platforms. We're at Plus TV Africa. I am Anetta Felix, asking you to have a great day.
And I am Osaogie Ogbon.
For me, I wanted to change that culture. I didn't believe that until you see a white man or you see a foreigner in the kitchen before you can believe that, good food is going to come out of that kitchen.
You can leverage on each other's spaces and, sell. We believe in Nigeria, right? We believe that Nigeria can get better. We, the youth, are the ones that can make it better.
And my products are proudly made in Nigeria.
Made in Nigeria, showing every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. and repeats on Saturday at 8:30 a.m.
Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. Welcome to your favorite program, The Moment of Truth, brought to you by the Citadel Global Community Church. Our God is a God of salvation, far above all principality and power and might and dominion, that regardless of what happens in this season, you will escape. Say to your neighbor, there is no peace for the wicked. The lazy man does not roast what he took in hunting, but diligence is a man's precious possession. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might.
Moment of Truth with Pastor Tunde Bakare, Sundays, 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
A very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us on Plus News Brief. I am Loretta Chiogo. 3 persons kidnapped in Ifara Akoko in Ondo State have reunited with their families. They were rescued by the Amotekun Corps and got to meet with their families in Akure, the state capital. Well, they were rescued by the Amotekun Corps and got to meet with their families in Akure, the state capital. They are part of the 12 persons abducted last week, Monday, by unknown gunmen. The remaining 9 had earlier been rescued by Amotekun operatives. The commander of Amotekun Corps, Adetunji Adeleye, says the victims were rescued from a bush with the help of other security agencies. And abducted pupils of Government Day Secondary School Kaya, Zamfara State have regained freedom. The police had reported that gunmen abducted more than 70 students in the state. State Police Command spokesman Mohammed Shehu said a large group of attackers stormed the school in the remote village of Kaya last Wednesday morning, seizing the pupils. He had given the number of seized pupils as 73. Gunmen have stopped students from taking English language paper in the ongoing WAEC at the Comprehensive Secondary School in Ndume, Imo State. The students were about to commence the exam when the attackers swooped on them, leaving students, their teachers, and supervisors scampering to safety. An indigene of the community says the gunmen also set ablaze some motorcycles belonging to some staff and students of the school. Meanwhile, residents of Imo State have now expressed dissatisfaction over the continuous sit-at-home order by IPOB. The people who came out in outright disobedience to the order insist they can no longer continue to sit at home, leaving their businesses unattended to. They are calling for an end to the sit-at-home order to enable the state move forward. And from
we are waiting for them from us. We still need to do something. We can't just put our hands and wait. This sit at home of a thing, the idea, I don't buy it.
I decided not to sit at home because this issue of sitting at home is getting tired to everybody. Hunger is everywhere. My children are there suffering. There is no food in the town. Nothing to write up about it. That's why I'm out to stop the issue of sit at home.
It's not going to encourage our economy. It's going to shut down businesses.
And we don't encourage people to sit back at home and expect manna to fall from heaven. So it's only when you come out to engage in your business, go to your work, you can see the economy grow. And you can be able to find something to take care of your family.
You cannot keep us stranded, keep us in our house, living in home. You can't even give us the thing that we'll use for it. Yes, we know that we need Biafra, we know we need, but it is not nice this time around. It's only God that will decide what will happen in the next time. So keeping us in the house, staying in the house, waiting that we cannot go out for our businesses to get what are they going to tell our children for us? No. There's no money in the house. They ask us to sit at home. But there's no money, no food in the house. So the children will not suffer, will not go and hang like that. Yes, we don't like this sit at home. Our children are suffering. No food, no nothing. They are telling us to sit at home. We like Biafra, but we don't need it now until everywhere is calmed down and we have tried everything accordingly.
Moving out from Imo to Lagos State, the Western Naval Command headquarters have played host to students of the Armed Forces Command and Staff College Junior Course 92-2021. The students were taken on a tour to familiarize with the operating environment of the Nigerian Navy and to also enhance their understanding of the capabilities and utilities of sea power in contemporary warfare. Plus.
Smartly dressed in camouflage and full of enthusiasm, these are students of Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Junior Course 92-2021. They are here at the Western Naval Command headquarters in Lagos for a familiarization tour.
With my students on operational visit to Western Naval Command, it's one of the course curriculum requirements, because they will go around all the services, operational units to know how things are done and for them to have first-hand knowledge of the conduct of their operations.
The Western Naval Command wants the officers to expand their horizon, and the students too can take a cue from them.
This visit by the college today is to bring the students to go out on sea, at least for once in their career, particularly for the Army and the Air Force officers, so that they will have it when there is a need for a joint operation involving the three services. They have a feel, they know what it takes to ride on a ship and all what it involves to run a ship at sea.
And there are some exchange of gifts between the flag officer commanding and the commandant of the Armed Forces and Staff College, Jaji.
From the Armed Forces Command and Staff College, please find a place for you in your office and let it remind you of this visit of a one-time of geese.
Hopefully, this training will teach young officers on overlooked issues bordering on national security. The training is from September 13th to 15th. Destiny Momo for PlusTvAfrica.
And the Caretaker Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee of the APC has fixed the party's state congress for Saturday, October 2nd, 2021. This is contained in a statement by the Secretary of the party's Planning Committee, Senator John James Udoedere. The statement adds that the sale of forms for the Congress begins on Wednesday, 15th September 2021. The party's Congress is started on July 31 with the Ward Congress. The local government Congress took place on September 4, 2021. Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has ordered the demolition of shanties where counterfeit bottled water, carbonated soft drinks and alcoholic beverages are produced at Mpogo, Port Harcourt, Rivers State. It says the state government will acquire the land as the shanties have been a hideout for criminals.
Governor Wike told journalists during a visit to Mpogo that he had received credible intelligence report that some criminal elements involved in the counterfeiting of bottled water, carbonated soft drinks and alcoholic beverages were operating in the area.
Unbelievable. I got a security report this morning on what is going on here. And you can imagine yourself what is going on here, that people are in plastics and putting water and cock it up, and then at the end of the day, you buy the water on the road and you drink, and all kinds of diseases and sicknesses that abound. And it's most unfortunate. And if you look at the area where we are, is a criminal hideout, and I will not waste time immediately to demolish the area. In fact, this will take place in the next 2 days. I'm not going to give any report, any ultimatum. I can't believe that people can turn the whole Port Harcourt to a garbage city instead of a garden city. And it's unacceptable to me. I cannot accept it.
Wike said several unsuspecting persons have been afflicted with deadly diseases after innocently purchasing fake products produced by the miscreants operating in the shanties. Wike, who bemoaned the unhygienic environment littered with refuse and bagged used water and carbonated soft drink bottles, said his administration will not relent to rid Port Harcourt and its environs of shanties.
Most of the shanties are hideouts for criminals. They operate in the night and they go back to the shanties, and you cannot identify them. And so with the demolitions we have carried out, it has reduced the level of crime. Yeah, because one time, when you don't know who is living where, how do you know? So how do you even trace them? It's a problem to us. So for me, we'll continue to do this and to clear the criminals out of this Port Harcourt. And that is what I owe the people of the state and the business community.
The governor maintains that his administration will not relent in ridding the state of every traceable hideout for criminals.
Now to health matters. Nigeria is expecting 52 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines by the second quarter of 2022. That's the information from the chairman of the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19, Boss Mustafa. At a national briefing in Abuja, Mustafa disclosed that the vaccines will come from AstraZeneca, Nika, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and Pfizer. Mustafa also disclosed that Nigeria is exploring the principles of reciprocity with other countries concerning travel requirements for Nigerians and citizens of those countries. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control has reported 46 new deaths suspected to be linked to cholera in the past 1 week. This brings the total death toll from the disease to 2,323 recorded across 25 states and the Federal Capital Territory. In the week under review, 1,677 suspected cholera infections were recorded in 12 states, bringing the total suspected cases to nearly 70,000. In the meantime, the NCDC is continuing its national response to the cholera outbreak, but is also urging Nigerians to maintain a high hygiene standard. The Minister of State for Federal Capital Territory, Dr. Ramatu Aliyu, has flagged off the second round of polio vaccination in the territory. It was done at the Area 2 Primary Healthcare Center, Garki, where 2 newborn babies were vaccinated. In the minister's assessment, Abaji, Kwali, and Buhari are doing well in their polio vaccination drive, while Abuja Municipal and Kuje area councils need to undertake mop-up exercises to meet the required coverage. Dr. Aliyu is urging mothers to take the vaccination seriously and ensure proper hygiene. The fight to stop malaria has received a boost as a non-governmental organization, Corporate Alliance on Malaria in Africa, CAMA, donated 600 insecticide-treated nets kits for pregnant women and nursing mothers at primary health care facilities in Oyo State. CAMA's country representative, Ochiko Kayamo, says the End Malaria Project, jointly implemented by Haiti Health Initiative, revealed that about 27% of cases of malaria in the world occurred in Nigeria.
It is very important in terms of preventing mosquitoes. So when we give you these tools today, we want to ensure, we want to beg you and recommend that you use it not just take it home for decoration or for something else. You want to ensure that you use it, hang it on your bed, ensure that your children are covered, protect them against the mosquito bite, because mosquitoes are very dangerous.
The United Nations human rights boss, Antonio Guterres, has expressed grave concerns over human rights violations in Tigray, Ethiopia. This is ahead of the release of a report of rights violations in the region ravaged by conflict. The joint UN and Ethiopian Human Rights Commission investigation on Tigray will not be published until November 1, but Michelle Bachelet says it is already clear that cases documented comprise multiple allegations of human rights violations.
The joint report with its findings and recommendations is expected to be released on 1st of November 2021. It is already clear that cases documented comprise multiple allegations of human rights violations, including attacks on civilians, extrajudicial killings, torture, and forced disappearances, among other grave abuses. Sexual and gender-based violence has been characterized by a pattern of extreme brutality, including gang rapes, sexualized torture, and ethnically targeted sexual violence. Allegations of human rights violations have continued to implicate government forces and its allies. We have received disturbing reports that local fishermen found dozens of bodies floating along the river crossing between Western Tigray and Sudan in July. Some allegedly had gunshot wounds and bound hands, indications that they might have been detained and tortured before being killed. There are continued reports of large-scale arbitrary detentions of ethnic Tigrayan civilians in unofficial sites in Western Tigray.
United Nations human rights boss there speaking. Now, U.S. President Joe Biden campaigned with California Governor Gavin Newsom on the eve of a recall race that he has described as an attempted power grab by political associates of former President Donald Trump. The special election will test the power of the opposition Republican Party to unseat a governor in the deeply democratic California. Biden's joining of the embattled first-term governor is expected to give him up a boost.
We may have defeated Donald Trump, but we have not defeated Trumpism. Trumpism is still on the ballot in California, and that's why it's so important, not just for all of us here, 40 million Americans strong in the nation's largest and most populous state, but also to send a statement all across the United States of America that Trumpism has no place here, and Trumpism will be defeated all across the United States of America, because we're better than that.
This year, the leading Republican running for governor is the closest thing to a Trump clone that I've ever seen in your state. No, I really mean it. And he's leading the other team. He's the clone of Donald Trump. Can you imagine him being governor of this state? You can't let that happen.
And in business news, call this good news. The federal government has approved the deployment of the fifth generation network, also known as 5G, in Nigeria. The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Mr. Issa Pantami, ordered the Nigerian Communications Commission to implement the 5G plan for Nigeria immediately. The rollout of the 5G will be carried out in phases, beginning with the major cities across Nigeria where there is a need for high-quality broadband. The conversation regarding value-added tax collection between the federal government and states is still ongoing. Some believe that many states in Nigeria may not be able to meet their financial commitments. An economic expert is of the opinion that it will be more beneficial to the federal government.
Shegun Shile, an economic expert who was guest on the breakfast show on PlusTvAfrica, says the federal government of Nigeria is a major profiteer if the court ruling allows states to collect VAT.
If all these states, the 36 states and even the FCC,
eventually get the pronouncement. If this case drags on and drags as far as the Supreme Court, I now have the Supreme Court giving the judgment because it's a constitutional matter. And by the interpretation of the Constitution, except something drastically happens between now and when the Supreme Court have reasons to be able to adjudicate on this matter, you will be shocked that the federal government will not lose anything. It will rather even gain. It will gain more.
He further stated that some states are likely to benefit.
So if at all we are looking at who will gain, who will lose, federal government is the major gainer. Lagos and obviously, yes, Rivers, FCT are potential gainers as well. I call them potential because they are all of them truly. They have actually not considered some of the challenges that are also involved in revenue collection.
While the argument is strong on the capacity of states to survive when states are allowed to collect VAT is ongoing, Ubongita, an economic expert, says attributing state survival as an entity is flawed, but it will create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive and reduce interstate movement.
Looking at state survival, tying that to VAT, I think that's a problem because, sales tax is pretty recent. It's about one of the newest forms of, tax, globally. If you're an entity that's going to survive, you shouldn't tie, your survival to money being shared from you from, a purse. The good thing about even having states, charge VAT, independently is that you can now create an environment. For example, Bauchi can say, you come operate within Bauchi and it's zero VAT, you get? So they attract investments and investors and programs into their own state.
Meanwhile, regarding value-added tax VAT's dispute, the Court of Appeal orders that the enforcement of the Federal High Court judgment granting state government to collect VAT to be put on hold.
Monday's Met Gala was a celebration of the best American fashion, with red, silver and blue ruling the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Rapper Lil Nas X wore a Versace suit of gold armor. Supermodel Iman came out in a feathered gold and beige headdress, and Kanye West turned heads by dressing entirely in black. Dune star Chalamet sported a white silk suit with black lapels, while Billie Eilish shared her trademark baggy clothes for a peach gown she said was inspired by Marilyn Monroe. The invitation-only Met Gala is a fundraising benefit for New York's Metropolitan Museum of Arts.
The fact that I'm able to be here with Valentino, I'm so excited. I feel like a princess. When can I say that I've come to the Met Gala except for now? I'm so stoked. Well, the dress honestly chose me. There were a few options that we went back and forth with Valentino and my team, and they were just very, very open to any ideas that I had and concerns that I had, and really just strive to make me feel comfortable and confident and sexy and beautiful, which I feel all of those and more. And I just, like I said, I feel like royalty.
I am working with Sukaina, and their brand is basically like bright lights, and that's kind of what I wanted to kind of represent. Coming from the Olympics, that's what I wanted people to see. This represents the journey and what I did at the Olympics. And the gold medal, of course.
I can't sit down in this dress, so Connor Eyes and the rest of my team helped me get into this dress. Kind of had to slip into it.
This is Tom Brown. I decided to wear this look today and also just go with Tom Brown because, we're in America, and what is the true form of being American, right? And that's simply just being yourself. America is a melting pot. It's a place to really accentuate, and why not wear something that's medieval but still edgy, still up front and still close, and still, just yourself. So that's why I chose him today.
Quite entertaining. And now to sports news. Manchester United manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is aiming to go all the way and win the UEFA Champions League. Solskjaer believes his squad has a rich mix of youth and experience to do just that. He was speaking ahead of their group stage opener against Swiss side Young Boys in Bern. United have spent big in the transfer market since Solskjaer took charge in a bid to assemble a title-winning squad. That includes the arrivals of Cristiano Ronaldo, Jadon Sancho, and Rafael Varane.
Yeah, we've had enough disappointments, that's for sure. We had some big moments, of course, but this team now has grown and matured over the last few seasons, I have to say. That was always the plan, that we, in call it 3 years' time, back in the day when I came in, that we have a squad that we can look around with experience and quality that we could challenge. And with players like David next to me here, Harry had a couple of years here now. We're getting the spine in the team, and you can see with experience and quality. And of course with Rafael and Cristiano coming in.
Well, it's great to have Cristiano back at home. I think he shows already from the first day when we played at Old Trafford the other day, the impact already. He scored 2 goals, very important goals for us. And as you know the qualities, but I think we are talking before, the experience of Cristiano is amazing. So it's great for us. It's a legend here in the club already, so it's great to have him back. It's massive for us.
And of course, that's the news brief. For more, please follow us at PlusTvAfrica on Facebook and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Loretta Chiogo. Thanks for watching.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
Seize it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
For me, I wanted to change that culture. I didn't believe that until you see a white man or you see a foreigner in the kitchen before you can believe that, you know, good food is going to come out of that kitchen.
You can leverage on each other's spaces.